Now I want to give you a reaction to the president's rare primetime terror address from the Oval Office last night, warning against blaming Islam because he says that's exactly what the terror group wants.
We cannot turn against one another by letting this fight be defined as a war between America and Islam. It is the responsibility of all Americans, of every faith, to reject discrimination. It is our responsibility to reject religious tests on who we admit into this country. It's our responsibility to reject proposals that Muslim Americans should somehow be treated differently.
Joining me now, Governor Mike Huckabee, 2016 GOP presidential candidate. I didn't know that America was at fault for doing that. Sure, we have people in this country who are going to be racist against Muslims after 9/11 especially. But I think as a nation as a whole, we have continued to allow all kinds of immigration in, including Muslims.
Absolutely, Gretchen. And in fact, the President and the Attorney General ought to talk to their own FBI. There were 5,500 hate crimes last year in the United States. Only 1,000 involved religion. And of those, only 16% were directed toward Muslims. 58% were directed toward Jews. If the President is worried about people taking it on the chin, he needs to go out and defend the Jewish people of America, because they are 3 times and plus over in terms of the object of hate crimes than Muslims are. What he's saying is nonsense. It simply doesn't exist with the facts, because he has created this narrative that everybody is against Muslims. That's not the case. But we are against Islamic jihadists. We are against Muslims who want to kill us.
So were you surprised, because I've heard some pundits and presidential candidates today saying, you know, we've come to expect this now from President Obama. Unfortunately, I think in many people's minds that he really isn't going to do anything new. So did his speech surprise you? Well,
it did, because it was a speech about nothing. It was almost like a Jerry Seinfeld episode. There was nothing there that he said that he hadn't said before. There was nothing there that he said that really put something new on the table. If he'd come in and said, look, I want to go after ISIS, and I'm going to go to Congress and ask them for authorization to wage that war, which I think, by the way, he should do, and I think any president should do, that would have been worth going to the Oval Office. If he had said, I want to bring consolation to the American people, especially here at this holiday time, let me assure you, here's the specific things we're going to do. We're going to make sure we do everything possible to keep you safe, and we're going to put a pause on this notion of bringing in Syrian refugees.
Right.
That would have been different. But he didn't say anything like that. He basically said, let's get rid of your guns, all of you law-abiding people. Right. And by the way, don't be so mean to the Muslims.
Yeah. He did call it terrorism right off the bat, and I think a lot of people felt calmer about the fact that at least it wasn't workplace violence.
Yeah.
I want to bring you this new alert right now, Governor, because the House Homeland Security Chair, Mike McCall, revealing moments ago that people linked to terrorists in Syria, guess what? They're trying to get into the U.S. in the refugee program.
I can reveal today that the United States government has information to indicate that individuals tied to terrorist groups in Syria have already attempted to gain access to our country through the U.S. refugee program.
All right. So the president didn't talk about that last night.
All the more reason that those of us who have said, let's not be bringing in tens of thousands of people that haven't been vetted, because one of the people who did the shooting in San Bernardino, one of those terrorists, had been supposedly fully vetted, had a passport, had a visa, had been investigated, background check. Absolutely. So if you don't do it when you're in the calm thing of a fiance check, do you really think we're going to have a significant background check on tens or hundreds of thousands of people? And here's the real issue. Why are those people refugees? They're refugees because ISIS has driven them out of their homes and neighborhoods. So let's get rid of ISIS so these people can go home. That makes more sense than bringing them 8,000 miles to the United States.
All right. You're hearing Governor Huckabee's real story today on ISIS and much more. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Gretchen.